Hello and welcome to episode, I'm not sure what number, of the What Shara Made podcast. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer, and a big hello if this is the very first episode that you're watching. I've got a couple of FOs and a few whips to discuss. I've got a giveaway prize to announce, a winner to announce, and a couple of acquisitions, and I might just dive straight in. So I think I may have shown you maybe the very beginning of this in the last episode, but I've got a design FO to show you, and it's a pair of socks. I think I had just started it last time. So I've got the pair, but I've only got one on a blocker because I've got another sock on the other foot of my blocker. So it's this pair here, and I'll show you up close so you can get a good image of that pattern, the stitch design there. Now it's an interesting combination of stitches. As you can see, I've used two different yarn colours, a main colour and a contrast colour. Even though it sort of looks like a speckled white, it's actually a pale pink, that lighter colour, but anyway, it's not really showing up there. And it's actually a combination of knits and pearls and 1x1 cables, and it ends up being this quite textural, it sort of reminded me of fish scales, sort of, if you're familiar with carp, looks like carp scales as I was doing it, particularly when you've got it on an angle. I don't know if that angle is coming through on the screen, but looks like the scales of carp fish. So that might come into play when I'm naming the pattern, but I'm not sure. So that is this pair. You can see I've got a pair here, and I did enter these into the Kiwi Kangakel, which has finished just the other day, as one of my entries, because the pattern's by me and the yarn, the beautiful yarn, was actually given to me by the lovely Hannah from Rosehip Island. She's got a beautiful shop on Etsy and a lovely podcast as well. So the yarn is from Tassie and the pattern is by me, so it fit the criteria for the Kiwi Kanga cowl, so I entered these into that cowl. But the pattern will be ready for testers this week, so if this is a pattern that you think you like and would like to test, keep an eye out on Instagram and Ravelry, and I would love some testers for this pattern. You'll only need to knit one sock within the test period, and then you can knit the second sock in your at your leisure. It's actually a really quick knit. It's not tricky, and you can actually do the 1x1 cable without a needle, so without a cable needle. It's very easy, and without dropping stitches off your needle so they're hanging free or anything like that. You can do it while everything's still on a needle, and it's a handy little stitch to learn, I think. And I've got one in a different colour here, which is where my other sock blocker is, and you can see I've used a green and a yellow yarn, so you can really see how different the stitch pattern can look in different yarns. So This yellow yarn here is also from Rosehip Island, and the green you might recognise from a pair of socks I showed in the last episode, and that is from B and Bell Studio on Etsy. Beautiful, beautiful yarn, and I loved it so much I wanted to keep using it. I didn't have enough left over from that pair of socks that I previously made to make a whole pair of socks, so I thought I could combine it in this pattern with another colour and make this pair of socks. And you can see how textural that pattern is, but it's not thick and bulky so that it would impede you wearing it in normal shoes. It just happens to be textural but not thick and bulky. So there is that. I'll show you in a different yarn combination as well. So here is a whip in that same pattern, but it's these two yarns. So another leftover yarn from a previous project, and both a bit struggly because you know I struggle with yarn winding. So this yarn is a Finch Yarns, South Australian dye. It's beautiful. I think this is called Amber Lights. And this one is from Moseley Park, and this is called Liam, and it's got a little bit of sparkle in it. So if you have a look at this one's coming out quite springy, very springy indeed. So you get a good idea of how textural that pattern is, and there's just a little bit of the inside, just in case you're wondering. So that is the new pattern coming out, and I will be looking for testers this week. So that's that pattern all done. Now something else I have finished is these mitts. Aren't they beautiful? And if you follow me on Instagram, you would have already seen these. And this is a pattern by Tracy from the Grocery Girls, and you probably have heard of the Grocery Girls podcast. It's very good. If you haven't watched it, you should check it out. Do yourself a favour. Very, very enjoyable podcast to watch. They're very funny. Tracy and her sister Jodie do a podcast together, and they're very funny. And Tracy has started writing her own patterns, and this is one of them. And these are called the Prairie Mittens. And I've used an 8-ply yarn and held it double with a strand of mohair silk, and the mohair silk is from the Coal Girl Collective on Etsy, and gosh, it is beautiful. I cannot wait until we have some weather that's cold enough for me to wear these. And I talked about the yarn I was going to use for these in my last episode, and these are really quick knit. I think I knit them in less than 24 hours, so that was great. I did go down a needle size. I knit the small size and went down a needle size, and they're the perfect size for my little hands. So they're beautiful. I love them so much. Really comfortable, and the pattern was beautifully written, really easy to understand. You didn't have to guess anything or try and interpret any language in there that was ambiguous. It was wonderful. So I highly recommend this pattern, and it's a nice way if you've been seeing all that beautiful lace weight mohair online and wondering how you could use it. This is a really nice pattern to introduce you to using the mohair double stranded with a regular yarn. So that's these beautiful mitts. And I'm going through these really quickly. This isn't going to be a long episode. My next whip is one by someone else, patterned by someone else. The beautiful Jessica Gore of the Sweater Collective. She has brought out a new pattern in the last couple of weeks called Pizzelle. I think that's how you pronounce it. My apologies if I've got the emphasis on the wrong syllable there, but I'll put the name of the pattern there. And I'll show you a picture. Maybe I've got a picture of it here. Maybe I don't. I'll put a picture of that pattern up here. So that's the beautiful pattern, and I'm knitting mine in some incredibly deep stash. This is some black lace weight linen that I have had for many years, and I sort of had a vague idea of what I wanted to do with it, but I didn't have a pattern that matched that idea until this pattern came along, and I knew straight away this was the yarn I was going to use. And I don't know how well you're going to be able to see my pizzelle. Well, you can sort of see it. No, you can't really see it. Maybe if I put this behind it. You can sort of see the beginnings of my pizzelle. It's coming along. Now, it did take me a very long time to get this started. I did start it maybe 4 or 5 times before I got beyond maybe maybe beyond about there. It took quite some patience. And it's nothing to do with the pattern. Definitely operator error. And I was initially trying to do it using magic loop, and that was just out of control, not going to ever work for me. So then, what did I switch to then? I think I tried that a couple of times before I just realised that was never going to happen. Then I tried some double pointed needles, some Zing, Knit Pro Zing double pointed needles, which are, I believe they're aluminium, but they were too heavy, and I would get a few rounds in and I had to sort of keep holding the needles between my legs because they were too heavy and they kept slipping out. And then I would think I was being so careful and clever, and then next minute one of the needles would slip out, and then because of all the yarn overs and everything like that, it was impossible to, and the lace weight linen and everything, it was impossible to then pick it back up and put the needle back in, and so I would have to start again, and I would get it maybe one round further in the next attempt, and then one of my needles would slide out. Until eventually I rummaged through everything I own knitting wise and found a pair of Knit Pro Symphony double pointed needles, and they're very lightweight, and once I did that I got enough rounds going that I had enough stitches on there to be able to then transfer the stitches onto a 9-inch circular, and then I had no problems. Then I got enough stitches on there to transfer them to a 16-inch or 40 centimetre circular, and then I went up to a larger circular, and now I'm on a bigger circular, and it's all smooth sailing since then. That was no problem, but yeah, it did have a few false starts, but I wasn't going to give up. That was alright. I'm very patient when it comes to that sort of stuff, so it was okay. I did have to do a little bit of deep breathing, and it was alright because I did have some time to myself, and I was sitting by myself. I wasn't getting interrupted by anyone else. I think if you were trying to do it with anyone else in the room, it could be a bit frustrating. If you're having as many issues as I was having, it could be a bit frustrating, but once I got going, it was great, and now I'm loving it. I don't know how quickly I'm going to get it finished, but yeah, I'm just doing a bit each day, and it's growing, and it's looking good. I'm looking forward to having the finished piece so I can wear it, so it is one of those pieces that I keep thinking about every time I'm not knitting on it. I keep thinking, when can I get back to my Pizzelle and keep knitting on it? So that's good. That's a good sign of a good pattern when you keep thinking about it and want to get back to it. So yeah, hopefully it will get finished soon so I can use it. I'm determined not to let it languish. I want to get it done, and I actually want to make, there's the full pie version, so the full circle, and there's the half pie version, so the semicircle version, and I would really like to make the semicircle version as well. And I've got a few really beautiful lace weight skeins in my stash that I've collected over the years because they're beautiful, or people have given to me, or I've had an idea about what I was going to make with them and then the idea faded away. And now I've got this beautiful pattern in my collection, and I keep thinking as I'm knitting this one, oh, I could use that skein and do that with it and make the half pie version with that skein. And yeah, so I think I might be making a few more of these in the future. I'm really looking forward to it. So that is my Pizzelle shawl by the Sweater Collective. And that is it for pieces that I have, whips and FOs. And now I'm on to some acquisitions, and I got these two skeins recently at my local yarn store, which, if you haven't noticed, the background is a little bit different than usual. I'm actually in the back room of my local yarn store. If you've been watching my podcast for a really long time, you would actually recognise this background because I've done a few broadcasts from the back room. But if you're new to the podcast, you wouldn't recognise this background, and you might have been wondering where I'm coming to you from. But I got these two skeins from my local yarn store, and these are naturally dyed by a beautiful local artist, Kate James, who is known as Valley Maker, and you can find her on Instagram and check out all her beautiful things. She's so talented and lovely. And this one is dyed with alkanet. Kate did tell me, and I knew I would forget, so forgive me, but this is going to be an abridged version of what she used to dye this. Alkanet, pomegranate, sapin and logwood, and it's all processed without chemicals, like completely naturally, and I believe it had an element of like a single dip in some completely natural indigo. So that is this one, and you can see those little speckles of the other natural colours in there. So beautiful. I'm so excited to use this, and the base that it is on is it's just pure wool, merino wool, and this one is madder root, and I believe those red speckles are cochineal. So very pleased with that, and I've actually got a new cowl design in the works, and these are going to be made into that, so I'm very excited for that, very excited. And that is my acquisition for this episode. I'm very happy about that, and I think I have now talked about everything I need to talk about here. And some things that I don't have with me, so I'm going to flash up pictures as I talk about them. One thing that I have finished is my big, beautiful Isfahan wrap that I have talked about in the last few episodes. It's completely finished, the one that I've made with my Rosehip Island advent calendar. So I will put up a picture here. I haven't got it with me, so hope you enjoyed that image. And I'm now going to start on the good copy because that was the prototype, and now I'll start on the good copy, and then the pattern will go out to testers as well. So if you think you might like to test that pattern, you don't need to finish the entire wrap because it is a really big knit, so I wouldn't expect anyone to finish it within a certain time constraint because it does take quite a bit of knitting. You only need to knit a certain section of it because the pattern is just a repeat of that section. Obviously it just keeps going and going and going. If you would be interested in that, keep an eye on Instagram and Ravelry, and I'll be making a call for testers very soon for that. And now I'm going to announce the February winner of the year-long stash busting craft along. So if you can see your name here, congratulations, you have won the prize for the year-long stash busting craft along for February. If you have, I wonder if I've drawn the prize for January. I should check that. If I haven't, I will also add that down here. Can't remember if I had drawn that prize or not in the last episode. If you want to contact me via Ravelry and let me know which individual pattern on Ravelry you would like. It doesn't have to be one of my patterns, it can be any pattern on Ravelry at all, and I will send that to you. And if you entered the year-long stash busting craft along last year and you didn't watch the last episode where I announced the overall winner for 2018, please get in contact with me because that winner hasn't contacted me yet. So if you maybe missed an episode and you could possibly be the winner, maybe go check out that episode. And that's about it. So thank you all for joining me. I know it was a very brief episode, but I had to fit one in just to keep you up to date with what's been happening. And as always, keep an eye on Instagram and the Ravelry group. One more thing. You'll notice that I did release a pattern this week as well, which is the Old Hair shawl pattern. So it's a crochet shawl. It's been in the works for a very long time. I did have a reason why I had to wait until it was released. It did need to coincide with an event, so that event took place last week, and the pattern was released for that event, and I've had a really lovely response to the release of that pattern. And depending on when you watch this episode, there's a discount to celebrate the release of the pattern, which expires on the 21st of March 2019. So hopefully you're watching this episode in time to receive that discount to celebrate the release of the Old Hair shawl, which can be found on Ravelry. And I hope you all enjoy that shawl. I had a beautiful, amazing group of testers who really made that a lovely experience, actually. So thank you very much to those lovely ladies. They were very, very helpful. And now I think I've covered everything for this episode, and I hope you can join me again soon for another episode of What Shara Made. And I'll see you all soon. Bye.